Well, hello, Dragon family. Yes, it has been a while. You're probably wondering, what did she fall off the face of the earth? What happened over there in Japan? We haven't heard from her in weeks. So I am coming to you live because we've got a solstice coming up this week. A lot of big energies completing. All of this started in the March equinox, and you're probably feeling it, this movement into what feels like a final gateway, a final birthing. The last several December solstices have been very powerhouse, the last three in particular. And all the signals were pointing to this June and the energies flowing into and the astrology aligning with everything sort of culminating, pushing us through that birth canal, that gateway on this June solstice. So if you're feeling things aligning in your life into a new direction, things that you've been feeling like, wow, I'm just on the precipice of this, be ready for it to be right in your face or to take that leap, because you're probably just noticing and feeling that sort of lightness of being pulling you forward into your alignment, into what's going on for you internally. So I have lots to share today because I've been on such a hiatus. One of them I want to start with is the Orion Wars. I had an email exchange with Helen, who is new in our Dragon family and has asked quite a few great questions. And when I talked about the Orion Wars recently, or I don't know where she saw the post about it, but she started having memories of being in some kind of a flying vessel or vehicle and was asking, were we all riding dragons? Were the dragons flying? Were there any other beings around? And in wanting to direct her to some more information about the Orion Wars, I did a search on all my lives on my YouTube channel, in my archives. And I realized that most of the discussions I've had about them, because I feel like I've talked about them a lot, have been in my book clubs, my programs, all kinds of things where it might not have been on the YouTube channel. It probably wasn't on one of these lives other than very brief mentionings. So I'd like to touch on that a little bit because that's what we're coming full circle back to. The Orion Wars was the beginning of the dissension of energies. And so it's interesting this coming up here as we're culminating that spiral, coming origin point, end point, where they're meeting, and that discussion has come up again. So one of the things when I talk about the Orion Wars, a lot of people have trigger memory. It's a trigger keyword. There's a lot of trauma around it. Typically, there's a lot of deep response emotionally, regardless of which side you were on. If you were incarnated as dragon and were there as part of the setup team of building the planetary grids and getting everything set up in order to drop down from 5D into a third dimensional planetary grid and a field of matter, we were blindsided. So this is one of the things that, and I titled this, Losing the Orion Wars, because we're big, powerful, amazing beings as dragons. Many of the galactic teams of light were also present, or part of the construction teams. And for me personally, I have a lot of memory of the Orion Wars that came in years back, of watching my other dragon commanders falling out of the sky. Ooh, my whole body's tingling on this as I'm speaking about it again. Seeing, remembering being caged and shackled. That was my big piece that I've shared many times about what was my final breakthrough piece, to be able to be live, to be on a public forum, being my dragon self, being able to claim that and live it and know that, what? I'm no longer afraid of that shackling. I'm no longer afraid that if I'm public, they're going to see me and cage me again. That was all this shadow piece in my field from the Orion Wars, of being basically put in a cage, watching or being tortured, watching my troops be tortured, other commanders, all kinds of loss on that level. And that's the kind of stuff that is embedded for many as they work through the Orion Wars. And those triggers and what that brings to the surface. We did lose that battle. And that's a hard one to sort of come to terms with in our brain, because we think, well, the dragons are so strong, and it was predominantly against the reptilians. The reptilians were the opposing force, or the oppositional energy that was necessary. They were contracted to be that. So it's not about pointing fingers and blame and, you're the bad guys. they've played that darker role. And that was necessary because if you think about what was happening then, the Orion Wars, that fifth dimensional platform, in order to drop into density, to drop into the field of matter, needed a polarizing field of energy, an event that would cascade downward energetically into that lower field, into polarity, into what would be third density, and these very, very oppositional forces. So that didn't exist to such a degree in that higher platform. So the reptilians were contracted to bring that experience in, and the dragons being those beings that couldn't attack, couldn't go forward on the offensive. They're defensive players. They might know something's coming, but they cannot hit back. They cannot hit or attack unless being attacked first. So they're predominantly defensive maneuvers. That's why and how we were defeated. Many were taken out of the skies blindsided from the back, being hit with giant spears, arrows, spells, all kinds of things that were being blasted at us in a singular moment, all at once, on all fronts. And knowing that it was imminent, we knew it was coming. We knew there was an event. We didn't know specifically what it was, but knew that the timeline or the expansion into that lower field required such an event. And so when it happened, the creating of the lower polarized field happened not just because of being attacked. It happened because we didn't know the timing and had natural emotional uprising and response to all that unfolded and occurred, both in being attacked, in being captured, in many perishing, and many watching their troops and their commands perish or be taken prisoners. It was all those emotions that started generating enough on the darker side to start stretching that, to bring in that black light frequency and its shadow aspect. That's what allowed that separating, that bifurcation of the energies in order to even create this platform. So in looking at, in one of Helen's recent emails, she had said, I'm so surprised that we lost that war. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because that for many is a big question of, we're so strong, powerful, full of love and light, and have that force of the divine within us and working through us. How could we possibly lose something like that? It was intentional. We knew what would happen, and so the parameters were created for us to lose. And that generated that emotional field, that tearing apart, that shadow aspect of the dark light. The dark light is as beautiful as the white light. And in that counterpart, having both existing in a perfect balance, that's the world of 5D. Well, then you have to create the shadow aspect to have the four pillars of both the light side and the dark side. And you might think, well, where is the shadow aspect of the white light? I don't get that. Well, look at all the white light that's out there with deep shadow. We've got many, many spiritual, religious factions out there that have many, many shadow aspects that are not necessarily fully divine light. Might not be full shadow, but they're pulling that shadow aspect into the light. So there are four pillars that were created, and now we're bringing those all back together. So that leads me into, what is the work moving forward of this solstice? What was Japan about? Why was I in Mount Fuji area in May with my dragon hearts? And how does that bring us to completion? So one of the pieces that I brought in several years ago, this 13th dragon, we've got the 12 dragons of Mu in the tectonic plates. Their job is done, and they've been holding the scepter with their Lyran replacement, waiting for the handoff, waiting for the readiness, the completion point to be able to hand over that baton. And the grid points are no longer theirs to deal with. Some have actually started that transition. But it was bringing in this 13th dragon who came into my field of awareness, even on the maps, probably before my first Dragon Heart program 7 years ago. But understanding the role really came in the last 2 years. And that 13th dragon that is under Fuji is really about the core. So everything with dragons, 12 around 1, right? We've got a setup of 13, just like the zodiac is actually 13. We're just now discovering that 13th core sign, and it's becoming more broadcast and shared about as it comes in, as the information comes in. So the 12 around 1, here's that 13th dragon. Well, the crystal dragon has held that position, but this dragon is the counterpart to that. As we move back up into crystalline, well, what's at the base of that Merkaba? If we have the patterning in the middle of the 12 around 1 that has been around crystal, well, the completion is bringing that 13th dragon in that is about holding all of those together in a crystalline pattern. Actually Herkimer diamond, which is perfected, no occlusions crystal, right? I've been shown to have Herkimer diamonds for each of the 12 dragons that will be untethered, that are part of the Council of Mu. And so that is part of that energy that is being released into the earth and that this new dragon is holding. So you can look at this 13th dragon as like the new foundation that as all the other dragons, complete and let go, they're leaving behind a guardian who has not had a role up to this point, who came in, was brought into this system in order to be the foundational platform of that new earth grid, of that fifth dimensional new earth platform that the Lyrans are guarding. So there's one dragon still in place. They are holding all of the Akashic record, all of the field of energy of what has been in the 3D, what was there, what is the history, the Akash, the record of all of it. So all of that being brought in, it's the baseline, it's the foundation, but it's at a much higher octave than the previous foundation we had, right? The previous foundation was under that split with the black and white coming from the crystalline core. So, and even down to the, what's very close to a second dimensional platform, whole nother story on that, but knowing when Archangel, who's called Lucifer now, actually split the field. He actually dropped down and is going to be heralded as that being of light who assisted with that process as we were dropping that energy down all the way down to the lowest platform of that third dimensional field, right at the edges of 2D, as dark as we could go into shadow, base, hell realms, all of that. So Fuji was an incredible, beautiful, powerful weekend. If you felt anything over the 24th, 25th of May, that's when we were working. We had very specific sites with a dragon guide in Japan who is very similar to the work I've been doing. He brought a book through. I haven't been able to read it because it's only in Japanese, but he's working with the energies of a dragon there that has been guarding Mount Fuji, not the Fuji dragon I'm connected with, but there's an original dynasty of humans that centuries ago was working with this dragon and the energies of Fuji. And so he has brought all that back to life. And there are 7 shrines, temples, built and flowing that energy out directly to Mount Fuji. So we got to visit multiple of those, get that energy flowing and be connected to that, as well as the 4 corner points of the base of the pyramid or Merkaba around the core of that Fuji, what I would consider the heart center of this Fuji dragon. So the work we did there at those 4 specific points is going to be completed on this solstice coming up on Friday. So Friday the 20th is our actual June solstice, 7:41 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's my time zone here in Nevada, which is the same as California, San Francisco, Los Angeles. So figuring out where you are in that, sometime around 4 in the afternoon, most likely, we're going to start the completion of that because I was shown to set it in motion to connect into the anchor points physically with the team. And we had 4 working together, very interestingly, 3 masculine energies and myself. So it was very unusual. I was actually with 7 masculine, so my 2 boys and then 5 men, our 2 male guides and 3 dragon hearts in the energy. It's very unusual to have so much male energy present for spiritual activations, energy activations, and to be only 1 female, 1 feminine energy holding that. There will be more, it will be fully imbalanced at the solstice activation that we're doing from Shasta, because Shasta and Fuji are connected, as is a point in Indonesia. But I found it very interesting that the call came to the masculine to be there physically present. And so those points being finished, it was about the seed energy. It was about being able to astrally travel back to that because we were connected physically, so that when we complete it here, we're doing the work on the solstice from Shasta, but connecting directly into all those points physically because we've been there. And so you may feel that. We're going to start up on Shasta about 4 in the afternoon Pacific Standard Time this Friday. Feel free to tap in, join in with us. We can't do a Zoom from where we'll be at because we'll be up probably without signal on the mountain. But anytime you tune in energetically to this larger group sphere of our dragon family, you're going to be tuned in with it, especially those, hi Kathy, I see you on there, that have been part of the Quantum Flight program and are that other part of that inner circle. You're going to feel it even more in depth and more strongly because of your closer tie to that inner core dragon heart sphere through our connection. So just bring that in for awareness. What happened in Japan? What is happening on the solstice? What might you perceive, experience, or feel? And so we're going to be fully activating and releasing all of that into that Fuji dragon. It will be fully go, which for me is like the gates opening, the new is complete. Like, we're there. We are living that ascension path. We are living in that magical realm. And you may notice that I'm not doing as much anymore. I am moving into solely doing physical activations worldwide. And if when I'm in a place I can make a gathering happen or a workshop or a talk or even just meeting up for a coffee or lunch or something with my dragon hearts that are all over the globe, I'm super excited about that and moving into that as my call for work. So you might not see the booking calendar anymore. I'm not going to be doing one-on-one sessions anymore. So as we move forward, you're going to see me less and less. I will check in from different places. Hopefully I'll be able to do a Zoom at some point from Shasta this weekend. But if in flow and it doesn't happen, you don't need to see me physically to be connected to the energy, to be part of that activation. And it's that movement into our mastery, which is what my job has been, to move all of those dragon hearts that particularly did that inner circle work with me, but even the larger dragon family, to move us forward to this gateway. That has been my main task here, to get the number of activated masters out there that are now doing their work in the field, and they may do offerings or be helping other people along their way. And it's exciting for me to see how many stepped up to that and graduated into that mastery of living in your own alignment, being able to telepathically connect in, feel, communicate with those spheres, with beings like myself who you're connected to, and always being able to tangibly tap in. That's why you don't need the Zoom call. You don't need the physical connection through this device. You're part of it, and you'll feel that. So I'm just letting you know, time frame wise, the actual solstice is at 7:41. We're going to start much earlier in the afternoon and just build on those energies and see how long, what we need to do, and then a huge celebration, because so much of the work is complete. And I'm so grateful for all out there in the dragon family that have been part of making that completion happen. We're there, you guys. We've done it. And so opening those gateways to your life of magic and mastery, super excited for you. I will always be on emails. If you want to send questions, comments, reach out, whatever, say, hey, you know, I'm here. If you're in this area, please contact me so we can meet up for lunch or coffee or a workshop, a talk, whatever. Otherwise, I'm going to say goodbye for now. I don't know when I'll be on for a live. And that's what living in the flow is. I'm going to be very much in the flow from here forward and living in that magic and alignment myself. So huge dragon hugs to all of my dragon family. Thank you so much for the journey that this has been weekly for the past 7 years. I know it's not over. It's just changing looks. It's opening a new chapter of how that interaction happens. So super excited about that. All right. Hopefully we'll connect in and feel a lot of you with us on Friday. And I got to say, I'm beyond ecstatic that for the first time ever, I have my inner core of Dragon Hearts. There are going to be 12 of us meeting in Shasta. 10 of those are my core Dragon Hearts. 2 are their partners who are helping them get here. Some are from South Africa. Many are from the East Coast. There's only one that couldn't make it physically. So we are coming together as a powerhouse team. And I've not met most of them in person. And so this is like 7 years of Dragon family work, getting to meet in person. I gotta say, I'm ecstatic. So some of that starts tonight as I pick them up at the airport so that we can leave from Reno for Shasta on Thursday. And I get to share with them the beauty of Lake Tahoe here tomorrow. So wishing you well, sending big hugs. Tap in with us on Friday, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now, everybody.